What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tiffany, aka theTILAGO. If you're new around here, I talk about all things the faith journey and living in and on purpose. And today we are finally starting this new series here on the channel that I know a lot of you have been waiting for, a lot of you came here for. And so we are starting a series here on the channel called Read Your Bible. Or in a way that I probably would normally say it, read your Bible. And so this is going to be the series where I get to come over here weekly and share with you my insights, things that I'm pulling out of my readings as I am attempting to read the Bible cover to cover in 6 months. I'm so excited about it. It's already just like fueling me, filling me up. You guys are already encouraging me and motivating me so much because you're my accountability and because I shared it with you. So I feel a little bit of pressure. Okay. But in a good way. If you didn't already know, then I used ChatGPT in order to create this plan for me. I told it to just break down the Bible in a 6-month reading plan, excluding the weekend, so that I would have time and space to just, dwell on certain verses for longer or to play catch up on those days where I just didn't get all my reading done. Okay. And so I'm excited about sharing with you pretty much my recap of the book of Genesis. That's kind of what the first week was focused on. Yes, I stepped into Exodus a little bit, but I'll share that, my insights and things from that in the next video. And so today we're going to dig into Genesis, and I feel like the flow and the format of each of these videos is going to be a little bit different every single week, just depending on like what I'm pulling from it, how the book is or whatever. But today I have my notes right here. And so I'm going to be sharing with you my summary of Genesis, what I learned about God from this book, what I learned about humanity, how I'm applying what I learned, my favorite verses, and then 1 or 2 like random things that just I could not let go of. And so if you're ready to hear about all those things, let's go. Okay, so the summary of Genesis. Basically, y'all, the story of Genesis, or the book of Genesis, is all about the story of creation and the foundations of our faith. So it's about how God created the heavens and the earth. And it talks a lot about, of course, the like pillars of our faith. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You hear people talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob a lot. They are found in Genesis. The story of Noah is in this book. I'm trying to think if there's the story of Joseph is at the end of this book. There's just so many different like people who are like pillars of our faith that you read about in other books of the Bible that are found right here. Their stories, their lives, their genealogies, all those things are found right here in the book of Genesis. I have read Genesis, I don't know how many times. And so I was excited to just like dig back into it again. It's just one of my favorite books of the Bible, and I just enjoyed it again. Of course I did. Right. But I think it was just such a beautiful time of reading it this time because I felt like I had so much context, and because I've read it so many times, but I had already so much context. So as I was reading it this time, there was just a different, lens I was able to use to understand it. And so that's really the summary. It's just of like how God created the heavens and the earth and all the things, and different stories of the people who are pillars of our faith. Okay, what I learned about God, y'all, I learned a lot, okay? But I wrote down 5 different things. And so here they are. I learned that God is creative. I learned that he is a God who really just wants relationship and what's best for his children. God is a God of covenant and promises. God is a God who always has a plan. And God is a God who redeems. There is so much more that I learned, but those were the ones that I felt like really were highlighted, like the aspects of who God is and his character were really highlighted in the book of Genesis. So he's a creative. Y'all, in the first few chapters of this book, he is creating. That is how we meet God in this book, is we see how he puts things together. We see his process of creating, right? Creating the waters, creating humans, creating animals, creating all kinds of things, everything. And I just think like there's something interesting about the Bible starting off with showing us the creativity of God. And if we're made in his image, then guess what? We are creative too. So that was something that really stuck out this time. Second thing, God is a God who really just wants relationship and what's best for his children. We see that the whole entire book. Like, if he starts off this book with creating this Garden of Eden, he's got Adam and Eve living there, and he spends time, walking around there, and we can kind of infer that because it shows that like he did that at a time, at the time of the fall. But it's just kind of cool to see like, yo, they got to like walk with God. And I know we see that throughout the rest of the Bible too in different ways, but it's just like shows you like he created us because he loved us and he wanted relationship with us. And then even in all the times where people were being wicked and people were not obeying him and not acknowledging him, he is just trying to continue to show us that no, he knows what's best for us and he wants what's best for us. And so he always does something to try to get what's best for us right in front of us, and for us to get to try to get us to see that he knows what's best for us and for us to accept what's best for us. And so I think just seeing that this time was really cool too, and to see it in different, the lives of the different people mentioned, is that he just wants relationship with us, and that he is a God who wants best for his children. The third thing we see in Genesis, or one of the things that we see, is that God is a God of covenant and promises. I absolutely love this aspect of God because he does not play about his covenants. He set a covenant with Abraham in, Abraham's life at the beginning of when we start reading about Abraham. And then he continues to repeat and mention this covenant to Abraham's descendants over and over and over again. Hey, I have given you this land. You will be in this land. You would be my people. Like he just has, like he was really serious about this covenant that he created with Abraham. And then same thing of like these promises that he had for all of them, these promises he had for Noah to say, hey, I will never again flood the earth like this, like, and to show that we have not seen it flooded like that again in time. And so like just different things like that we continue to get to see in the book of Genesis. Like it just really showed me like, man, no, he keeps repeating this. He keeps bringing this up to and reminding these, each person of the covenant and the promises that he has set for them and their family lineage. Like he ain't playing, okay, about these covenants and about these promises. And so that was just something dope, again, that I was able to see in Genesis. And then fourth, God always has a plan. I saw this in every single one of the people's lives, y'all. Like every single one. I think it was more so, no, I'm not even gonna say that. I think it was just apparent in everyone's life, but I think it was really, really clear in the life of Joseph. Like the way that Joseph's life went, like how he had to go from, being this hated brother, and then going to being sold into slavery, or, slaved into captivity, and then going to Potiphar's house and being lifted up in Potiphar's house, but then being accused and then being thrown into prison and then being exalted or lifted up in prison and then being forgotten about after, interpreting dreams, and then being taken into Pharaoh's house and being lifted up. It was just like a whole bunch of all these different pieces showed that like God always had a plan for him. And he, again, that was shown in so many of the other lives that we get to read about in the book of Genesis. But that was just something that really stuck out to me this time, is that what we read at the beginning and what we see at the beginning is like, it may not at all end up in the same way or the way that we think it's supposed to end up once we finish reading that story. And it's because God's plan is always going to prevail and his plan is always perfect. So God always has a plan. That's something that I learned in this book. And then the last thing that I'm put on this list that I learned is that God is a God who redeems. And so we saw how many different times that people were just outlandish, wild, or how many times that things happened to people that, things got taken from them, or just different things like that. Like I said, Joseph, we saw it with even Hagar and Ishmael. We saw it of like, even though this was like illegitimate, like God still had a plan to redeem and Hagar, and to redeem her and show her like, no, this is not like this thing that has happened to you, the way that you're being treated in this way. Like I still am going to redeem you. I still have a promise and a plan for your lineage too. Right. And so like, it's just different things that we saw in the way that he redeems, even in the story of Noah, y'all, like to see that he's like, man, I have now regretted creating humanity because they're all evil, everybody crazy. And yet I still have a plan to redeem. The plan, yes, did include killing off everybody. It did. Flooding everybody. Yes. I know some of y'all that kind of doesn't sit well with you. I understand. It's something to just wrestle with God about, like Jacob did. But the fact that he had a plan to redeem, and he redeemed, like, so like, there's so many things I could say, and I'm trying to keep this video short, but like, I just think about in that story with Noah, to think about like where Adam and Eve came from, like had the fall, and then Cain and Abel had this issue with Cain, killing his brother. And then even to the point of where like, it seems as if like they just stopped mentioning Cain, as in like, yo, we just gonna stop talking about you. And then for him to bring up Noah and be like, okay, I still have a plan to redeem my people, even from this fall, even from, their corruption. Like I still have a plan to redeem them, and I want to redeem them, and I want what's best for them. And so that was just something else that I saw in this book. Again, is just He always has a plan, and he is a God who redeems. Okay, out of those, is there anyone that is sticking out to you right now? I want to know. Drop it in the comments. Those were the things that I've learned. If you've read the book of Genesis and I didn't mention something that you learned or something that stuck out to you, go ahead and let us know in the comments. I would love to just keep chit-chatting about this book. All right, what did I learn about humanity? I wrote down just one thing, y'all. And it was that we are wildly corrupt due to the fall, and we are severely in need of saving and redemption. Again, we just saw this all throughout the book of Genesis, that people were just so corrupt. They were evil. Their thoughts were evil. Their intentions were evil. There was even deception in the ones that he called. And so nobody is perfect. That's another thing I learned. Like, none of us are perfect. Nobody's perfect who he's called. And I think it was just like, I don't know, it was just very interesting to see this time, like I said, having context, like to see how wild some of these things were that were happening in the lives of the people that we read about, who were still, pillars and, pillars of our faith. And so, like, I think just seeing, if we think, of course, all the way back to Adam and Eve, like to see that God created them in such this beautiful way and gave them this beautiful life, this beautiful garden with beautiful things in it. And they still found a way to be corrupt, or like to give in to the enemy, and like, not to diminish that we do have a very real enemy. We do have a very real adversary. And so, like, to see that when you give into his plan and when you give into his voice, how much corruption you bring about into your life and the life of those around you. Like, it was just wild to see, like, and and I say wild in a way of like, not like I'm surprised, but just wild, like, to just read it again. So yeah, that was just one thing that I really learned about humanity. And the main thing that I think I saw with humanity, like, even again, if I go back to Joseph's life, like to see how his brothers sold him into slavery and like were wanting to kill him. Like, bro, what? To see how Cain kills because he gets so angry. To see, like, man, what else? So many things, just so many things, like, that we read in this book, that we see, like, humanity is just corrupt. And without our Savior, without Jesus, without God, like, we really are lost. We are lost people. We are just out here. And so we need the saving. We need the love and the relationship with God so that we can actually step into the fullness of what he has for us, and to be the people he's created us to be those who are actually in his image and we are displaying his image. And so I just thought that was the main thing. Yes, there was so much more that I could learn about people. There are people who are obedient. Abraham was super obedient, but he also had a little deception in him. Okay. But it's like, there were just so many things that I saw in this book, and I'm not trying to overgeneralize everything and just say, like, this is the only thing I saw and, all those kinds of things. But in terms of me, like, reading this again and trying to just, like, also trying to keep these videos not super long, like, I just want to point out the things that are most potent to me in the time that I read it this time. So again, if you have other things that you want to share about this book of the Bible, please drop it in the comments. Like, I want us to actually have dialogue and conversation about it, but I don't want to just don't want to have a whole bunch of points just to have a whole bunch of points. Like, this was the main thing that stuck out to me this time. And so it really does put into perspective, like, how much we need God, how much we needed Jesus to come and to redeem, right? As God had a plan to come and redeem humanity. And so, we are wildly corrupt and we need God, like, we need him. And so that's the thing that stuck out to me about humanity. Okay, we're rounding things out. How am I applying what I learned? So absolutely, I want to read the word and then actually be able to apply what I'm reading, like, in some way to my life. And so how I'm applying this book of the Bible again to my life, and how I'm trying to be more intentional about remembering the things that I learned here, is number one, I'm remembering to be obedient. Like I just shared, like, we saw how Abraham was obedient. We saw how Noah was obedient. We saw how those who were obedient, we saw how not only, yes, were they blessed and all these things, but we just saw how close they were to God and how close he was to them, right? So we saw how he wanted to give, to make covenants with them, how he wanted to have promises that he wanted to fulfill for them. And those were just really dope things to see and to recognize. And so to see that, in Abraham being obedient in a moment of, leaving all of his family, or leaving the land that he had known, or going to sacrifice his son, and being called righteous and counted righteous for these things. He's a friend of God. Like, I want to be called that, you know what I'm saying? And so, and I also want to see the will of God done in the earth, in my life, and in the lives of those around me. And so that requires us to be obedient. And so to, again, lean into and accept that what God wants for us and how he wants us, how he moves in our lives is the best possible possible way that he can move, and the best possible things that he can want for us, and best possible things that we can see, then we need to be obedient. And so I was just really encouraged by the stories of those that I saw that were obedient, and how God just orchestrated their lives and the different steps that they took. None of these stories, none of them are linear. Like, none of them look like they went from point A just to point B, just to point C, and it was all just a straight line. All of their lives look like crazy mountaintop, valley low, pond, I don't know, shapes. Like, it was just a whole bunch of different stuff going on in their lives, and different journeys that they had to take. But those who were obedient, like, you could just see like how it seemed like their faith was continuing to be fueled as they were obedient as well. And so that is one thing that I am going to definitely apply, is to, if whenever God tells me to do something or speaks something to me, I'm just going to have to be obedient even more and be even more intentional about that. So that's the first thing, or first way that I'm applying what I learned from the book of Genesis. And then the second thing that I want to apply here is to not allow circumstances to dictate my feelings or my trust in God. This is going to be a hard one. I mean, it's already been a hard one. I've already known it, but to read again in these scriptures and in these verses, how like these people's lives did not always look like things that should make sense, like, or things that were, where like God was in it, right? It didn't look like God's hand was on their lives and things like that, like in our human mind. And so it could be easy to just like go with your feelings, and to, allow your feelings to dictate how you need to move and how you need to live your lives, and to dictate how much trust you can have in God, where it's like, yo, you said I was going to have this, but I'm not seeing it. So what are we doing? And so like, I just really learned how it is not about the circumstance that you were in. It's not about the situation that you were in. It's not about what your life looks like now. It's about how much like trust and faith do you have in God? How rooted is your faith and your trust in God? Is it rooted in him for sure and for real? Or is it rooted somewhere else? And if it's rooted somewhere else, we got to bring it back. And so I just really want to be able to apply it in that way, apply, what I learned in this book in this way of like, anytime that it looks like the situation that's in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, like doesn't make sense to me, that still can't, like, I still can't use those feelings that I might be feeling to dictate how I need to move. I need to remember who God is, remember what he's spoken over my life, remember who he's created me to be, and remember his promises with me and with us in order to, live my life in the way that he's calling me to live it. So that's the second way that I'm going to be applying what I learned by reading Genesis. Okay, we've got just two more things to talk about. And the first one is my favorite verse. It is the verse that I think a lot of people know. It's the verse that even in the Bible handbook that I have from Daily Grace Code, this is the verse that they also highlighted and stuck out. And it is Genesis 50, verse 20. And I want to read it. Give me a second to turn there. So context, this is Joseph speaking to his brothers after they were pretty much afraid and fearful that he was about to turn on them after their father dies. But this is what he says in Genesis 50 and 20. He says, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." So this goes back to God having a plan always. But it also like is my favorite verse here because I just like, honestly, that note, like God always has a plan, and it fuels me and it encourages me to remember that no matter what is happening, no matter what's around me, no matter how I get treated, no matter what I do, even in some instances, like God always has a plan that is good. He always has an ending that is good. As long as I will trust him and seek him and stay in his will, he has a plan that is good for me. And so I pray that verse encourages you today. Even if you've heard it before, I pray that you hear it again today and it reaches you in the way that it needs to. And then the last one I want to talk about is the random thing that I saw in the book. There were a lot of random things. There always are random things that I see especially in Genesis. I can read this book over and over and see a lot of, and I say random, I know that God is very intentional, so it's not random, but it's like things that I'm like, wait, what? Like that over and over. And so the one that I saw this time was in Genesis 24 and 47. And it's when Abraham has sent his servant to go find Isaac a wife, and he goes and finds Rebecca at the, well, but what he does whenever he finds her is it says in Genesis 24:47, hold on, let me turn there. It says here, and this is the servant speaking. He says, "Then I asked her, 'Whose daughter are you?' She said, 'The daughter of Bethel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him.' So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelet on her arms." The thing that stuck out to me, y'all, is that Rebecca had been given a nose ring. I don't know why that stuck out to me so much this time, but the fact that it was in the Bible, the fact that God decided to put it here was just really interesting. So I had looked it up because I was like, well, what does a nose ring mean in this time and all the things? And there were a lot of different meanings. People were like, we don't know for sure and exactly, but essentially thinking like it's the same thing as when somebody gets an engagement ring. It's like this ring shows that you are spoken for, basically. And so, I just thought that was really interesting and really, I don't know. Like I said, there's so many different interesting and random things I found in this book and I can find in Genesis, but that one just stuck out to me this time. I could not let it go. And that's why it's still on my mind today. And I read those verses, I don't know how many days ago. So Rebecca was given a nose ring. Okay, y'all, that's really all. I know that this probably feels like a very high level, watered down, not detailed enough summary. I don't know. You let me know what you thought of the format of today. Like I said, every single time that I come over here each week, I'm sure the format and the flow is going to change and shift depending on what I feel like God wants me to share it. But I just feel like this is just one of those books. Like if you've never read through Genesis in like one sitting, and when I say one sitting, like if you've never taken like a certain amount of time to just sit in Genesis, then I really encourage you to do it. It is, again, one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's where we learn the story of creation. It's where we learn about some of these pioneers of our faith. And so you really want to know about them. And it really helps you and gives better framework to the whole entire Bible. And of course, it shows us and gives us more of the importance and understanding of why we need Jesus still today. And so I hope that you got something out of today's video. If you did, drop it in the comments below. What was your favorite part of today? Or again, if there was something I didn't mention about Genesis that you have always found interesting or you've always wanted to point out, let me know. Pull it on out. And also, there's so much in these books, And so I have not posted anything on this page yet, but I created a new Instagram page called theTILAGO in the Word, where I am going to actually be sharing even more frequently, shorter clips though, about what I'm reading each day. Now I'm not posting every single day, but it's going to be daily-ish insights that I see from these books and these chapters that I'm reading. I'm reading like 9 or 10 chapters a day. So there's so much I'm trying to disperse in this video for you all, when I'm reading a whole book, but by the time that a week is finished. But over there, I'm going to be trying to pull out certain things on different days of my reading and just sharing those things too. Another layer of accountability for your girl. And so anyway, if you like the video, definitely give it a thumbs up, tap that like button down below. Also, if you are subscribed, thank you. I love you. I'm glad you're here. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and also turn on those notifications so that you are notified and aware of every time I post a new video. Again, these are going to be coming out every single week. Hopefully, prayerfully, they're coming out on Fridays. But who knows how the weeks are going to go for me. But I pray that each one comes out on Fridays. And yeah, I'm really excited to keep going in this series. I hope you got something out of it. I really, really do. Or I hope you were more encouraged to go and read about these stories that I was kind of mentioning today and these people who were mentioned in this book. I'm excited to keep going. So I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.